software came with a webcam, so not the best. Anyway, cool. So, everybody, welcome to lunch. Second meeting, cool stuff. I already mentioned the website. All you guys need to go see the website. The video is posted up there. Just mentioning that. So today, with a very generic font for the presentation, we're going to talk about kind of just the basic talking points about starting a business, what you should be looking for, what are some resources, what are some things to kind of look at if you want to start a business. I'm not going to say like a $10 million business. We're not going to be talking about getting investors or anything else. It's just kind of taking the idea to actual action somewhere. So, going on with that. So, as far as ideas for a business, don't ever try to force it. If you sit in a room and you try to say, okay, I'm going to start a company. What should I do? You won't come up with anything good. Every single startup school or class or entrepreneurship class has this problem. If they have people come in with nothing, then they're going to go out with nothing. Because there's no possible way you can come up with a good business just by forcing it on. You have to see something that you kind of ran across most of the time. Dr. Gibson, who is actually going to be offering like positions in the entrepreneurship class next semester if this club goes well, wants this club here because he wants you guys to come up with the ideas here before you go to the class. And in the class, you can actually do the real stuff. So that's kind of the point of this club, is for you guys to kind of flow and play with that kind of stuff. And just generally, don't ever force entrepreneurship because it's not possible.
Who was that instructor, Dr. Who?
Professor Rick Gibson. You can call him Gibson. He doesn't like doctor or professor in front of it, just Gibson. If you ever talk to him. He's on 4.3 of AC1.
Okay.
Actually right across from Bruce.
Well, yeah, because I talked to Bruce, and he was kind of like old school. So is Gibson kind of...
Gibson's the same age. But he likes the startups a lot more. He's working with the startups here on campus. There's about 2 startups right now. One for like drones, and another one for like a consultancy or something in the business school. But they're both working on crowdfunding this semester. And Gibson actually said he'd like a little help from this group if anybody's interested. So if you want that as like a side project within launch, go for it. Not required or anything, but just throwing it out there if you guys are interested. So yeah, they'll be going on Kickstarter late October or early November, I think is what their plan is.
Well, that's the donation.
Yeah, for the donation. So yeah, as far as letting it come with the idea, the realization is sneaky. Usually you get into the business and you start selling it and working on it, and then you're like, oh shoot, this is an actual business. I'm actually working on this. And that's a good sign, because if you don't really catch on as you're working in the business, you know you have passion about it and you just enjoy doing the thing. So it's a lot easier to work with and play with and then actually grow. Because you can apply yourself better saying, oh, I've got a business, now I can really run this. Alright, so that was a very philosophical thing. But where you get ideas is totally up to you. Everybody has different systems. But once you have the idea and you're like, okay, this is a neat product that I'm kind of like playing with, and my friends kind of are buying a couple, and I'd like to turn this into a real business. So where do you actually learn how to be a business? How do you fill out an LLC? Where do you get tax forms? All that kind of stuff. The nitty-gritty of actually running a business. A lot of people will start saying, oh, I need to go get an MBA, or oh, I need to take an online class, or oh, I need to join Launch, or something like that. None of those are required. This awesome thing called the internet answers every single question you can possibly have. You can say how to start a business, and they'll give you the 1, 2, 3 with the links to get stuff done. Anything you possibly want to learn about how to start a business is online. And it's amazing how much in our digital age, few of us remember that. We have our phone all the time, but then when we're like, oh, what the heck are we supposed to do? We don't decide to Google it then. But there's a huge number of resources. If you're wanting to learn how to market or the kind of philosophy of it, there's Inc.com, there's Entrepreneur magazine. All of them have their websites. You can learn from them. You can read blogs. You can go on to LegalZoom.com. You register a company. They tell you how to do it step by step. It's really easy. The resources to do any kind of a business are already out there without having to go and get an education about it. The first company I started was completely raw and completely off the internet stuff. So it's really easy just once you go looking for it. And that's the main thing. Just go look for it because it is there. Okay, so what do you need to start a company? Some people get into the whole thing of, okay, now I got the business set up and I got the idea, but now I need funding. I'm going to ask my parents for $50,000 and then I'm going to pitch 50 investors and I'm going to go be rich and I'm going to get the office and everything else, and then I'll be ready to start the company and really get rolling. No. No. What you need is what you got. If you cannot get a company started with the resources that you have at hand immediately, or if you need to ask people for money before you have an actual business, then you are not prepared and not ready to run that business or use their money. Because an incredibly bad habit of startups and new businesses is once they get all this money, they start spending it. They're like, we've got all this money, now we get to use it on stuff. And then a year later, they ask for more money. And then a year later, they ask for more money because they keep on spending it, and they're like, it's going to keep on coming. And then they fail 2 years in, never having done anything because they don't know how to work within their resources. They're like, okay, got this all, it's always going to be there. It's a very sophomoric mentality, or college, it's a high school mentality of, parents are always going to give me the allowance. No, that is not the case. If you can start the business, if you have an idea for business, you can totally start it for $500. Everybody says, oh, yeah, the 500 startup story. It's not a cliche. It's not a rare thing to happen. It's just somebody who totally decided to go ahead and do it. There's enough free websites, enough free app developers. Again, the internet is awesome. Anything you want, it is out there, and you can figure out how to get it and get it cheap. You can work out of your room, use your laptop. This morning, I was playing around with this concept to make sure I was right, and I created an app for a cleaning service on campus in about half an hour. And that was a business.
Wait, you can code for iOS?
No, it was a free app maker website called the App Builder, and you can set up a contact sheet that people can download on their phone, and boom, they can call you and say, clean up my room for HSIs, and I can hire 5 freshmen to do that per day. And then they get half the cuts, and it's a business for my time. That's all it costs. Whereas somebody else who says, oh, I'm going to have this awesome app for cleaning up stuff on campus would be like, okay, I need a web developer, I need an app developer, how are we going to do this? No. Cut it wherever you can. People call it minimum viable product. That's the lingo in the industry anymore. But just get the minimum thing you need to make it work, and then go ahead and try it. Once that works and you're actually making money from it, you can move on.
What was it called?
The appbuilder.com. Okay, so again, what is the cost? How much money do you have? What do you want to pay? Because if you're invested with $10 million, it can totally cost $10 million. That's easy. That happens really easy. But if you're going to be a stickler about it, and you should be when you're starting a company for the first time, it can cost $500. So, not too much to add there. That's about the whole thing I have with that. Whenever you're starting a company, just see what the very least you can possibly do is, while still not screwing over your customer, and then start the company. That's how you do it. You go out there, you try it, you fail a few times. If you're wanting to print a newspaper, print a page, and send it out to people to see how it runs. If you want to make an app, create a fake website, kind of run it off, let people play with it, see what they think, and then add in the other stuff, bring in the actual developers. If you want to make a product that's a car or an electric car or something like that, well, that's tougher. It still doesn't have to cost $10 million. You can get the basic concepts down and for very cheap without having to go through the whole process and pitch to investors and that kind of crap. Because while, yes, within launch we'll be pitching to investors, it is not necessary. That is when you are set, ready to go, ready to roll, and you have that money very detailed. So that's the spiel. So go for it.
I have an app in development right now.
Yeah.
And I have a conference call with an investor tomorrow.
Cool.
For about 20 minutes or so.
Cool.
What do you think I can say? Or anything good is that idea?
Who's developing your app?
It's the guy's name Anton. I haven't met him yet.
Okay.
But it's through my friend. He's been I just jumped on the project like a month ago or something like that, and I've been managing what's been going on.
Fair enough.
And my friend just told me in basically.
How far is the app?
We should have an MVP in this month. October.
Okay. So the investor's gonna What's the market for?
It's a contact in a contact. That's basically in a nutshell.
Okay.
Like you can open up your contacts on your phone, scroll with someone, and probably don't remember how you met the person.
Okay.
So we're trying to solve that problem, and that's basically the idea for right now.
Okay.
So that's the MVP. We're gonna add some more features, but basically that's it.
Fair enough. What are you expecting? What are you planning to tell the investor?
Just where we're at. And it's not really exactly strict. It's not strictly an investor call, but I he said that it's good enough to consider for him. And we're just basically going to get his feedback because he Andrew Weinreich. I don't know if you've heard of him. No. He made 6 Degrees, like basically the first ever social network. And he sold that. He sold some other companies as well. Yeah. And made some money with him.
Okay, well then at this point it's just pitching him the idea. If he likes the idea, he'll keep track of you, and then the main deal is to just kind of stay in contact with him.
The person I'm working with, my co-founder, I used to go to high school with him, and he basically told me, and I agree with the objective of the meeting is for technically. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Get him sold on the idea. So this is the point where your passion and all that kind of stuff comes out of how much you love the product, how great it is, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And that's what he's going to be looking at you for. It's like, okay, are these guys for real? If they get this built, or should I even pay attention to them?
Okay.
All right. Because everybody makes an app. An app is like a band. Everybody has one now.
Yeah.
So it's a question of if you can translate that idea, because that's all it is right now, basically, even if you have the MVP out there, until you sell it and can show that you can sell it and scale that. The investors, it's just an idea. Right. So, yeah, get them sold on the idea, and then you can sell them on the business later once you've proven that.
Okay.
All right, next thing. So that was a quick thing. When we get real speakers in here, they will probably go for longer. But, okay, so logo design. Anybody in here had to build a logo for anything? Cool.
I made the Eagle Eye logo.
Eagle Eye, nice. What about you, Spencer?
I did a lot of business stuff.
Nice. Fair enough. All right. So, what would you guys say are rules for logos? Or
Got to be flat.
okay. Simple. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's generally true. The logo is your profile picture. It's got to work online. It's got to show who you are and what you're about in one picture. That's basically what a logo is. If you can think about it, that's what you want to show on your Facebook page. That is what a logo is. That's the easiest way to look at it. As far as the actual design of it and stuff, yes, simple is not an absolute rule. But in the online world, square almost is. Logos, again, profile pic. Every profile picture is square. You can't have a logo this long. So words, the ones that violate this are like Coca-Cola and that kind of stuff, or Audi. They're long logos, but they don't have very many Facebook pages either. But when you're just starting out, generally try to get a square logo just because it's easier to put on your app or put on your page or put on your website in the upper left-hand corner. It's just handier. So that's pretty much a rule that's set in stone. Normally flat. This is a new thing that's, again, for web stuff, web development. Outside of the web, your logo can be almost anything. But as soon as you go online, there's rules that you kind of need to follow to make it work. Flat is actually a result of the coding languages that they use. It's easier to put in flat images than ones with shadows and that kind of thing. Also just makes them look better because your colors are a lot more vibrant. But yeah, those are the two kind of basic rules that everybody should follow when they're designing logos.
Apple kind of is flag checking that.
Yeah, Apple is lead. Well, no, actually, Apple is still using non-flat stuff in their iOS. Yeah, they're still using skeuomorphic stuff on a lot of their iOS stuff. They're transferring, but everybody else has transferred before. Microsoft was actually ahead of them with the low flat logo.
Oh, okay.
So the general kind of concept for logos. This is actually something I found online, which I thought epitomized it really well. Is ARM, which stands for attention, response, meaning, memory. So within a logo, it's got to be something that grabs people's attention. Again, online, flat logos are nicer because they're more vibrant. They stand out from anything else on Facebook. If it's on a store shelf, it can be any kind of thing. It could be something that people are going to remember. Yeah, I'm getting lost. This is why you got to rehearse your presentation. All right, yeah. It's something that's supposed to grab attention. But within that attention grabbing, it's supposed to create a memory within the person. I'm going to skip around in this a little bit. But on a store shelf, if you see Skippy's peanut butter for the very first time, you've never seen Skippy's before, you may not remember the name Skippy's, but you're going to tell your kid, hey, get that peanut butter with the kid skateboarding on the front of it. The logo is the main memory-inducing thing on that jar. The image, the logo, the story that goes with it. The response, the point of the response is to elicit an emotional response. So like with Apple, the response is like, that is freaking nice. That is what the Apple logo is supposed to epitomize. But at the same time, that was something that was built up. So the response is something that comes later within a logo. It's something once it's known. And as far as meaning, that's also something that comes as people become familiar with your brand and your logo. But if you can communicate what your company does within your logo, that's great too. But very few logos actually do that. Because if you saw Apple for the first time, you're going to be like Forrest Gump, and you bought stock in some kind of a fruit company. And so that doesn't really communicate what Apple does. But once you know what it is, it's very clear. And like I said, memory, it's the thing that people are going to remember about you. Really. I had another slide on there. That makes me angry. Okay, fine. But within the logos and stuff, flat, I'm going to keep on talking about other stuff. Go to this one. Flat is not a rule, or simple is not a rule. There are complex logos out there. You can look at the Starbucks logo. It's got a mermaid with two tails, or whatever that thing on the front is. I never really knew. Maybe it's a princess, maybe it's a mermaid. No one's ever explained that to me clearly. But the Starbucks logo is not a simple logo. But they do fine because it catches your attention. You recognize the green when you're going around. It has the memory there. You're like, oh, Starbucks. It's got the mermaid fish thing on the front. Cool. That's round-ish. And then you're like, oh, good coffee, Starbucks. Meaning, right there. But if you're wanting like a simple logo, majority of companies are going towards simple logos. It's easier to create the brand around that. But simple is kind of a relative term too. I've got this website up here of 10 million awesome flat logos. So Raccoon, Task Tracker, CodeWorks. I mean, these aren't particularly simple as you would think of as like Apple or the Nike Swish, but they're still good logos because they're memorable. You can see them. You get the point across from whatever these things are looking like. So simple is not a complete requirement. It makes it easier to remember memory. But with the peanut butter example again, there's a peanut butter that was on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
The Nutty Squirrel or whatever it was, peanut butter. And these two girls, college students, had made this peanut butter that tasted like apple or tasted like chocolate or whatever it was. It was all natural, so it was amazing or whatever it was. So, but their logo was this squirrel running around with a jar of peanut butter. Inside the jar was a little squirrel, and there was a can on the ground and everything else. It's a squirrel doing a lot of stuff on the front of this jar, which is not a simple logo at all. But it's a good logo because you're going to remember that. You're going to go tell your kid, buy the jar with the squirrel on it. And you're like, oh, that's a neat logo. So you kind of look at it in the store, and it's kind of fun. So it's a decent logo. Once you get more brand recognition and they're bigger and stuff and they want to be the squirrel peanut butter or whatever it is, they might slim it down to some sexy slash two-color squirrel image head thing. But it's not necessary.
You basically said a sexy squirrel. I don't know how they do that.
I don't know. However they do that. They made an apple look sexy too. An apple's not in here. It's just that. But yes, a complex logo is not necessary. So, with all that in there, you guys kind of got the idea. A logo is your profile pic. It's supposed to create a memory for someone. I want you guys this week, if you have time, which I think a few of you do, because a few of you are pretty sure I'm freshmen. Create a logo for yourself. Since you don't know what the logo is for yet, it's really tough to have a logo that describes your company. But then again, Apple doesn't describe computers at all. So create a logo that's fairly generic, something you'd like to use for the rest of the semester, something you're kind of like to post on the website. Because eventually you guys are all going to create your own kind of little web page to kind of learn how the online world works. And you need that logo there for your profile pic. And I need it for the website. So if you go ahead and create a logo, and we'll talk about it next week, kind of maybe follow these rules or go your other way. Anything in business is really opinion. You can go on Harvard Review, and they're going to show you all these studies for this, that, and the other thing. But If you wanted to follow all the studies from the 1980s, we would have all used mainframe computers instead of personal computers. So business is a very intuitive art, science, whatever you want to call it. So design a logo that you're proud of, like to use, and we'll talk about them next. You guys will introduce them in a quick little 3-minute spiel showing off your logo next week, and we'll go from there. Next week we'll actually have a product challenge, so that will be how that will go. Any questions, I think? You're totally like anything, comments, concerns, which is mine, no one's correct.